In 2008, the real-time strategy genre was turned on its head. This is the history of Sins of a Solar Empire. The real-time strategy and 4X genres of PC strategy games share their inception in the early 1990s, with Westwood's Dune 2, The Battle for Arrakis, and Sid Meier's Civilization releasing in 1992 and 1991 respectively. Despite the rather inaccurate title, RTS games don't feature much strategic level gameplay and are instead focused on real-time tactical battles, while 4X were turn-based empire building games on a strategic and operational scale, occasionally featuring turn-based tactical combat for battle resolution. As the 1990s progressed, both genres evolved and began to share ideas and gameplay elements with one another, but with a couple of notable exceptions, there were scant few genuine RTS 4X hybrid games until the arrival of Sins of a Solar Empire. Developed by Ironclad Games and published by Stardock on February 8th, 2008, Sins of a Solar Empire crashed the RTS party in style, seamlessly blending classic real-time strategy gameplay with heavy Space 4X strategic elements. From Battle Commander to Emperor, and whether manoeuvring single ships or ordering the construction of vast fleets, the player had total control over every aspect of this ever-escalating conflict from top to bottom. Sins ramped the scale up from the single battlefield typically featured in a classic RTS to a whole sector of star systems, a scale more closely associated with Space 4X, and traded the usual rapid action per minute micro-heavy gameplay of past genre favourites for a more steady and strategic approach to achieving victory. Sins of a Solar Empire tells the story of the Trader Emergency Coalition, or TEC, and their desperate defence against two dangerous enemies, the mysterious Vasari, an alien species escaping a terrible existential threat and forced into a hostile migration into Trader-controlled regions, and the return of the Advent, a technologically advanced transhuman species previously exiled from their homeworld in millennia past by the TEC's predecessors, the Trade Order. Sins ensued the RTS tradition of the Campaign, a series of storyline-linked maps played out in sequence, instead focusing on larger scale maps with a longer playtime. Pacing can be slower than RTS games that rely on APM, allowing players more attention space to focus on both the operational and strategic aspects of the game. With the unique ability to seamlessly move around the entire 3D map and rapidly zoom into tactical play, Sins was able to give players fine-tuned control of the action. In a typical game of Sins of a Solar Empire, each player starts out with a single homeworld and the goal of eliminating their opponents. Fleets of warships are constructed to project power out into the sector, sending scouts to explore planets and other factions, technologies are researched, and new worlds are added to the Empire. Once neighbouring neutral planets have been colonised, rival factions eye one another's territory, looking for weak spots to exploit. Fleet combat and planetary bombardments follow, with truly enormous numbers of capital ships, frigates and cruisers all taking part to take down well-defended enemy systems. All fleet action takes place in the gravity well surrounding each planet, with planets acting as nodes connected by phase lanes, with each gravity well just one of many potential battlegrounds for fleet combat, and with the possibility of many battles occurring simultaneously, Sins offers a remarkable amount of depth when compared to more contemporary RTS titles. Despite this epic scale, Sins of a Solar Empire rarely becomes overwhelming and does not generally require rapid action speeds or high action per minute performance, allowing players to focus on the strategic 4X aspects of their game alongside the tactical combat. Sins also included some basic diplomacy between human and AI players, and pirates could be paid a bounty to make raids on your opponents too. Sins of a Solar Empire was a commercial success and well received by press and players alike, topping several Game of the Year lists and scoring highly on review aggregate sites like Metacritic, becoming a firm favourite amongst both solo gamers and the multiplayer community too. Following up on the smash success of Sins of a Solar Empire, 2 expansions were released to further flesh out the gameplay and provide the player with new tools and toys to play with. 2009's Entrenchment adds a new defensive structure research tree to each faction, allowing the construction of powerful orbital weaponry to help deter raids and defend colonised systems. Most notably, the expansion saw the introduction of the mighty Starbase, incredibly tough and deadly orbital fortresses that can take on whole fleets by themselves. It also provided players with new structure-destroying warships to blow all this stuff up with too. A second expansion titled Diplomacy followed a year later, expanding upon the existing diplomatic system to allow players to set one another missions, trade resources, and send out diplomatic envoy cruisers to improve relations. Relationships between players were more accurately calculated, with AI factions taking many factors into account when deciding their strategic moves. New research options added pacts, powerful bonuses that are applied to both factions in an alliance, and offering much diplomatic intrigue and epic acts of treachery and skullduggery to the most conniving of gamer. Alongside diplomacy, the base game and both expansions were combined and released as a single game titled Sins of a Solar Empire Trinity. In 2012, the first standalone expansion for the series was released, Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion, featuring all the content in Trinity and adding a whole host of new features to improve gameplay, graphics, and performance. Firstly, 3 new playable factions emerged, one for each of the Tech, Visari, and Advent. Each of these rebel factions represent splinter groups within their respected race, dissatisfied with the running of the war in tech space, armed with their own motivations and seeking their own goals separate from the loyalists they have broken free from. The Loyalist and Rebel split brought the total number of playable factions to 6, with each boasting their own unique research, tools and abilities to complement their race-specific fleet roster and propel them forwards towards victory in new and exciting ways. Furthermore, 2 new ship classes joined the fray. The first is the fast-moving Corvette class, designed as a counter for long-range frigates and other lightly armed vessels, utilising a hit-and-run strategy to avoid incoming fire. The second of the new classes is the mighty Titan, devastating warships with enormous firepower, incredible defence, and a set of awe-inspiring special abilities, acting as a powerful endgame centrepiece and a valuable tool in bringing all who oppose you to heel in dramatic fashion. Ironclad enhanced the graphics with improved particle effects and shading, and Sins had never looked so good. Rebellion also featured a further refined game AI for single player, and new victory conditions to allow for a greater variety of playstyles. 4 DLC were released following the launch of Rebellion. Forbidden Worlds adds 4 new planetary classes to the game, and technologies to allow access to them, with a series of extra attributes added to further differentiate the planets in each playthrough. Next, Stellar Phenomena introduced new star types, space anomalies, and random events that highlighted just how dangerous space itself can be. Finally, Outlaw sectors and minor factions both added in more detail and depth to the game's NPC antagonists, to shake up the early and mid-game portions of a match. The game has received much love from modders, with many popular overhaul mods that dramatically change how the game looks and plays. Over a decade after its release, Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion is still a great game, and has a thriving multiplayer community that has not diminished over the years, a rare feat indeed, and can hold its head proud even amongst some of the most legendary games in the RTS genre. Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion was a tough act to follow, but Ironclad Games were up to the challenge, and once again teaming up with Stardock, in September 2022 they announced the long-anticipated Sins of a Solar Empire 2 to much fanfare from the gaming community. 5 years have passed since the events in Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion, and with the Visari almost paralysed with dread and desperate to exit the sector, the war in tech space rages on like never before. Building on strong foundations laid down over years of development and culminating in the Rebellion expansion, Sins of a Solar Empire 2 escalates the drama and scale of the series to all new heights, adding many new exciting game mechanics and completely overhauling others to refine the classic RTS 4X hybrid gameplay so beloved of Sins fans over the years. One moment, you're making strategic decisions of who to attack and what to build as Emperor of your faction. The next, you're controlling a single capital ship as its fleet commander, jostling for a better position in a crucial battle. Sins 2 increases the detail of the simulation at both ends of this spectrum, while simultaneously providing innovative tools to make it much easier to play. First up, there's all new detail added in the tactical layer. A ship's turrets target individually simulated missiles with their own tracking speed and pitch. Missiles can be shot down by point defense or hit unintended targets blocking their trajectory. As a result, positioning your ships is now much more important, requiring an understanding of turret coverage and movement capabilities. There are new mechanics to handle the interaction of shields, armour and hit points, and many new faction-specific combat abilities to unleash upon your foes. In a groundbreaking new feature intended to keep players on their toes and add a new dimension to the top-level strategic game, Sins 2 introduces an optional feature called Orbiting Planets, where the worlds on the map gradually shift along their orbits, closing off previous phase lanes and reconnecting them to different planets as the game develops. The trajectory of these phase lane connection changes can be easily tracked up to an hour ahead of the current time frame, allowing players to keep one step ahead of their rivals and plan out dramatic attacks on previously safe, undefended planets in the enemy's back line. Capital ships, titans and star bases now have a series of slots that house a variety of special upgrades. Your fleets and defence systems can be tailored to counter specific strategies employed by your enemy, or give you an unexpected advantage in your own operations against them. Planets have their own upgrade slots too, whether they be civilian or military, to further customise their various industrial, economic or defensive output. There are many new planetary upgrades available to unlock in later stages of the tech tree, allowing for greater flexibility when planning your mighty empire. Relationships with other players, be they real life or AI, are both more nuanced and easier to manage. Sins has always been a game full of deep intrigue, desperate alliances and despicable backstabbing, and Sins 2 does not disappoint. Adjustable ceasefire timers, extended alliance options and the ability to demand or offer planets as tribute add great strategic depth to diplomacy as players form plans within plans to dominate all around them. Sins 2 is now 64-bit, with multi-core processing, and it utilises all available cores as the game runs too, with a huge improvement in graphical fidelity and performance, and games are more detailed and larger than ever before. These are just a few of the many upgrades and changes made to improve the gameplay of Sins of a Solar Empire, and we'll be covering it all in more detail in a future video. With its unique blend of RTS and 4X gameplay, Sins of a Solar Empire has staked its claim as one of the most original and enthralling strategy games of all time, standing shoulder to shoulder with other giants of the genre. Sins of a Solar Empire 2 aims to catapult the series even higher into the stars. So buckle up, we're just getting started.